allow for pooling of employees. So with that said, let's look at some small business provisions though. One of the best kept secrets about the law, and one of the things that we need to get out more publicly, is the benefit to small business with regard to healthcare reform. So first thing I want to say is there's no requirement for small businesses to provide healthcare coverage to their employees. Small business under the law is defined as having 50 or fewer full-time employees. Okay, does that make sense? So the first thing I want to clear up, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, small businesses are not required to provide insurance to their employees. We don't, the government understands it's very expensive to run a small business. We're not trying to break your back by saying you must provide. Now, if you're a large employer that is having 50 or more employees, you are required to provide insurance to your employees, and there are penalties against large employers. But let's stick with small business right now. So there is no requirement to provide coverage. However, there is a carrot for providing coverage. And the carrot occurs within the idea of some small business tax credits. So let's first look at who's eligible for these tax credits. As you can see, small businesses who provide healthcare coverage are eligible for tax credits if they have fewer than 25 full-time equivalent employees for the tax year. So the first is very mechanical. How do I determine whether I'm eligible for a tax credit? One, do I have 25 or fewer full-time employees? How many of you as small business owners have 25 or fewer employees? Yeah, majority of New Mexicans do, and majority of small businesses in America do. The average annual wages paid are less than $50,000 per full-time employee. It's very important to realize, though, that the small business owners, if they're paid, their salary is not calculated into this. The government says, look, small business owners are also part owner, part employee. We're not going to calculate their wages into this, so then we're not going to penalize the small business owners if that bumps their average. We're going to take them out and deal with them separate, whether it's an S-Corp, whether it's an LLC. Okay? The other thing is the employer must pay at least 50% of the premium cost for health insurance. So this is, you can get these tax credits if you are providing health insurance, and employers must pay at least 50% of the coverage. So what we found is most employers don't have any problem meeting that last threshold. A lot of employers are getting at least 75 to 80, maybe 90% even of their employees' coverage. So that's kind of your first stipulation. Now let's talk about what does that actually mean. We'll go to the next slide. So there's tax credits. Tax credits are going to actually be rolled out in two phases. Phase one is 2010 to 2013, a tax credit of up to 35% for the employer share of health insurance premiums. Then you have 2014 to 2016, it's up to 50%. So it kind of escalates another 15%. There's an excellent small business calculator if you want to see what kind of tax credit you might be able to get if you're providing insurance, or if you want to consider providing insurance if you're not already, then you can go to this tax calculator. It's either on the IRS website, or if you notice on one of the handouts that we have is from the Small Business Majority. Excellent resource for small business, particularly with regard to healthcare reform. They have a great website. There are calculators on their website. They work with our office a lot. They're just a really wonderful organization that's trying to help small business understand what the Small Business Jobs Act's about, what the healthcare reform's about, and I would recommend checking out that calculator and seeing how this may actually pan out. Or if you're an accounting firm, this can help you understand, basically, help you inform your clients about, whether they shouldn't provide insurance, or if they're already providing insurance, what kind of tax credits they may look at. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what else is there, for small business? Obviously, I mentioned the exchange, the idea of increasing pooling. That also allows for better negotiating power and leveraging lower premiums. Ending price discrimination based on illness, this idea of community rating. That is, if you're in this exchange, they're not going to just be able to say, look, your one employee got sick, we're going to jack up your rates arbitrarily to try to offset that cost. That's prohibited under the new law. Also, we talked about pre-existing conditions that can very much play a role within small business. And the idea is to have some kind of cost containment. And that's to try to make it more affordable for small businesses to offer insurance to their employees through these tax credits, as well as increasing the size of the pool, which helps spread out risk. Is that making sense on small business? And so, there's a lot more on small business. There's actually an information sheet in our packet. The Small Business Majority is an excellent resource. I kind of scratched the surface, but I think that's going to give you a good overview of some of the main frameworks